Welcome to the Circle of Fifths, the wonderful yet dreaded Circle of Fifths. It's a difficult thing to memorize, and we're taught how to use this. It's a useful tool because it tells you all the notes, the sharps and flats, and all of the scales. Not all the scales, but the most common scales. Um, so we're taught a kind of counting method, which is difficult to do in a series. So, for example, we're taught like start with C clockwise. Between each note, between C and G is five. So C, D, E, F, G. Between G and D is five notes. G, A, B, C, D. But to get all around, there's still a lot of counting. And you do know that you're adding sharps as you go around, and you can continue even to the flat side. And because there's so much counting, often they tell us, well, oh, hold on a second. Often they tell us, go counterclockwise and count four. Forget that it's too much counting. It's like when we gave the very first lesson. We have the very first lesson on learning the notes in the fretboard. It's too much counting to go all the way up the frets. There are some acronyms or some mnemonics we have in that very first lesson. If you go back and look, that tell us positionally where notes are. It's easier, I think, to remember than to count so much because especially when you're playing, you don't have time to count. So similarly, if somebody tells you in the key of A, you've got to count a lot of sets of five to go from A to G to G to D and D to A. It's too much counting, and then you still don't know what the sharps are unless you memorize them. So I have a different way to do this. So forget memorizing this in a rote fashion. We're going to calculate the circle of fifths, and I think by calculating it, each time you're calculating it, you're learning it and you're reinforcing in your mind how this works. So that said, let's go to this new system we have. Okay, let's deal with the right-hand side first, the sharps. And the mnemonic for that is clever giants dance around every bomb. Clever giants dance around every bomb. If you notice, the very first letter for each of those words is the scale to the right. C for clever, G for giants, D for dance, A for around, E for every, and B for bomb. So if you remember that mnemonic, you know positionally without counting sets of five to get from C to G and G to D and D to A. It's way too much counting. Like you just know those are those are the scales that are on the sharp side of the circle of fifths from that one acronym. Clever giant stands for every bomb. Now I have a little rule on the bottom, which again, you have to know a few of the rules, kind of like in math or in chemistry or some science. You have some rules that help you calculate things. And on this side here, where it says clever giant stands for every bomb, there's a rule that says count back one note adding the sharp note. So count back one note from the scale you're in and add the sharp. So it's pretty easy. If you're in G, count back one note, that's F, and an F sharp. Now the next note, I don't have to count G, A, B, C, D. I just know clever giants, dance. I know the next scale is D just from the acronym without counting the five. Now D, I use the rule down here, count back one note from the scale. I'm in D, I count back one note, C sharp I add. Similarly with A, clever giants dance around. I'm up to the word around. And I go back one note, I got a G sharp. So now I added an F sharp, a C sharp, and a G sharp. So I'm calculating the circle of fifths without looking at it, without memorizing it. And over time, every time you calculate the notes in the scale, you're learning them. So that's the one acronym for the right-hand side, the sharps. We've got a different acronym for the left-hand side. That's clever frogs balance eggs all day. Similarly, C for clever, F for frogs, B for balance, and we're going to learn a slightly different rule. On the right-hand side here, if we go back to that for a second, we have one giant because you go back one note. If you're in G, go back one note, you add an F sharp. The F is right before the G. Over here on the left-hand side, I have four frogs because now you do the reverse. You got to go forward instead of backwards. You got to go forward four frogs. So if I'm in the key of F, clever frogs, I go forward four notes, F, G, A, B. I got a B flat. Now I don't have to count five to get to the B and another five to get to the E. I know clever frogs balance. I quickly know the next scale in the series is B for balance, so B flat. On the left side, these are all the flats. And now I count forward four notes, B, C, D, E, F. And I know now I've got, I'm sorry, B, C, D, E. And I know because I got to go forward four, not five. Go forward four, and I've got an E flat. So I could go through the whole scale that way and just, someone says you're in E flat or let's say A flat. I don't have to count five, 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 five to know where the A flat is, I just go clever frogs, balance, eggs, all, and I know that I've got to add a B flat. I go forward for the, I go, well, let's start with A. I go forward for A, B, C, D, and I know right away I'm adding a D flat. Now, if I calculate my way there, I have to sort of remember F adds a B, B adds a E, E adds an A, but you can calculate it. And in time, the first few will be easy. The first few in the acronym, clever giants or clever frogs. But as you get deeper into it, you're going to start learning, from the previous scales what the notes are. And you could take a pen if you want to write it down in the beginning and say, okay, these are notes I'm adding. But my point is, you could calculate it all. You don't have to be counting in series 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, which is crazy, and you don't have to memorize it. And you might forget it, or you might not remember exactly. You could always calculate it. And like I said, if you're getting deep into the scale, you're up to D flat or B, and it's new to you. You could write down the notes you're adding, and then. But again, it's calculable. It's not something you have to memorize. So if you're waiting for a train or waiting for a plane, it's gonna be a mental exercise you can go through without looking at the chart. Just you have to know the two mnemonics. Clever giants dance around every bomb, and clever frogs balance eggs all day. You have to know those, obviously. You have to know the two rules. On the sharp side, you go back one giant, one note. On the giant side, the right side, you go forward four frogs or four notes to calculate what the flat is that you're adding. So it is you have to learn those rules, but then you need nothing. All you need is your mind and those rules, and you calculate the entire circle of fifths. So waiting for something, waiting online, waiting for a train, not driving. Maybe if you're in Uber, maybe you want to concentrate on driving. But if you're in an Uber or you're waiting for something, you can calculate these things. And if it's difficult to remember in the beginning that F has a B flat and B has an E flat and A has and E has an A flat, you write it down. But again, it's calculable. It's not something you have to memorize. Just with writing down a couple of notes and you're done. I hope this is helpful for you. We're going to actually branch off from here. And then the next lesson will be about major and minor scales, how they relate to each other, and why you want to know the relative minors and the majors that are relative to the minor, because it'll help you positionally on the fretboard when you're playing solos. It'll keep you from getting lost. It gives you some new anchor points. And also from that, because the minor scale is really a mode of the major, we're going to branch up into modes, and we're going to have a whole new way that I think you'll like to learn modes. That said, have a great day. If you like this and find this useful, click like. I hope you can subscribe. Have a great day, and thanks for listening. Bye now.